everybody. We have a game with the white pieces against Bobby Fuscher. 24. Let's play d4 against this. Engine doesn't like it, but nobody cares. He takes the free pawn that we offer. And so we develop against the Scandinavian in Gambit style, threaten to win our pawn back. Black defends the pawn with the bishop. And I'm going to immediately play f3. He takes the gambited pawn, but instead of developing my knight, I'm going to develop my queen with this double attack. So black's up a pawn. I'm hanging a central pawn, but I have a double attack. And my development's quite clear. He hangs he hangs the bishop. And the 1100 falls for our gambit. Not a trick, but a gambit. Okay, so he's down a piece for a pawn, still playing. Now he has a caro-kann structure, down a piece. We develop a knight to its most obvious natural square. My queen will get kicked around, but that's fine since we won an entire piece. We'll keep it here. It probably looks like a weird square. You can move it to wherever you want, but this seems good enough. He develops his knight. We just want to continue developing. We don't want to have to do anything crazy. Bishop e2 is sensible. Okay, he plays e6, so he has caro-kann structure. We can just castle, and now we have the semi-open f file, which is really good for us because we can put pressure. He pressures our knight, but we don't care about our pawn structure. You can even develop your bishop to h6, preventing castling. Well, we'll mess around with it. You could just put it to g5 like a normal person, but let's have a little fun. A little deeper in the position. He plays c5 so that if we take, he can tempo our queen, but we know we're not going to take, right? Instead, we're going to counter-attack the bishop, getting extra pawn support if he takes, and if he doesn't, that's fine too. So now we took the bishop from him, and he moves his knight and attacks our bishop. We can move it and try to induce some weird move that's not going to be good for him, or we can lose his castling rights, and where does the bishop go from there? The center, but that hangs some stuff. So in that case, let's counter the queen and try to provoke a weird move. Why is it weird? Because if the knight defends each other, you can just kick the knight, so it's not stable. So he goes back. Probably makes sense, the most sense. And our bishop ends up where it would have ended up anyway on g5, but it was our turn again. So this was a successful operation. And if we go here, he gets a piece. We get a piece. He gets a queen, we get a queen. That's not what I'm looking for. I want, like, he gets a piece, we get a piece, but then he gets a queen, we get a queen, his knight moves. So basically my queen alignment is just not where I want it. So maybe, yeah, I should have probably put it on f4 to keep the dark square pressure. But now that I'm here, maybe I can threaten some of this stuff. Or I could just reroute it this way. Which one? Let's go with the one that comes with a threat, pins his knight. See what he does. It'll usually provoke a low-rated opponent to waste a turn, responding. And that will give me, an extra turn to move my knight. Yeah, so he defends it in this way. Also defends this pawn, but severely weakens some light squares, which is good for me. So now that we did that, I think my operation, the whole point was to get the queen out of the way, so when I do this, well, he can't even take because it's pinned, but even if he kicks me and let's say he can take, once I take, there's no queen trade, which means the knight's pinned. So he does kick me. I get a piece, He gets a queen. I get a queen. He gets a piece. If I sneak in here, am I getting too close for comfort? Probably not. Because on rook over, you have either one of these. So I feel like we could stay active. Although there, queen c7, offering the queen trade. But then the knight's hanging. So let's get active. See this knight, because he played e6 and g6, severely weakened the squares, and now it's just hanging if he ever moves one of these pieces. Plus the knight's pinned, so it's really only defended once. So already we can just take the rook and then take the knight, but there's no point in doing that. I really think just going here makes sense. Also here makes sense. Maybe here makes more sense because this checkmate threats. Forget the pawn. And if he ever takes, you can hit the queen and the rook. Yeah, well. So here, he lifts the rook up. You can snatch that pawn. And his knight's still hanging. Or if we go here, what does he do? What's his move? This. I'm just gonna go here. It seems more correct. Or it seems easier for me to tell the good from the bad, I guess. So he moves the pawn, but that's just a huge waste of a turn. And now I can even do this, pinning the knight. So now this knight's hanging. So this is a threat. And now my queen can even come back and add further pressure to the knight. So black is just so lost, it's crazy. Okay, he hits the queen. I say we just... I mean, this pawn is hanging, technically. Do we care, though? Or do we want to go here and add pressure to the knight? Which he loses no matter what, I guess. I guess if I move my queen, if I take the pawn, and he unpins by king f8, clever move. Now both of his knights, well, one's unpinned and the other is protected then. If I take this one first, I guess he still loses stuff no matter what. He's just I have too much stuff attacking him. I'm gonna go here though because it comes with mate threats behind the knight. I don't care about his pawn. I'm up a piece. Let's play the better move, the stronger move. Or just the move I prefer. But I love how there's pins on pins. Yeah, why did I say king f8 when he could castle? For some reason, castling didn't even occur to me. Maybe I thought he moved his rook or something. Okay, so he just castles, which unpins stuff, but hangs stuff, I'm pretty sure. All over the place. So which knight's hanging? If you take this one, he recaptures. That knight's hanging. He queen trades. If you take this one, he can't take back because of the queen. So he can like, maybe sack a rook if he wants it. But then here, he's just hanging everything. You could take anything and with whichever piece. You could take with the knight, you could take with the bishop, you could take with the bishop, you could take with the queen. Oh no, not the queen because there was a knight here, but... Okay, so he does do this, but I'm just trading everything into a winning material game. So now we'll create the checkmating pattern here. If you automatically take with your queen, it looks natural, but after queen d8, you don't have time to go bishop h6, so you lose the checkmate. True, you can take the queen, he takes, and you win the rook. But you lose the checkmate. Whereas in this variation, I'm not sure he can stop checkmate. Oh, I guess I guess he could just sack the queen for the bishop. Yeah, so maybe it's not forced in my line either. But instead of a rook, it's a queen for bishop, so it's even better, I guess. But same thing. Okay, take whichever way you want, but you can clearly see my thinking process. I'm going for this setup, and I put the bishop here, so it's harder for him. You know, players not likely to just sack their queen like that. But once they see it's forced mate, they might just resign if they think it's forced mate. So he covers that square with the king, which is pretty smart. Pretty smart, eh? Okay, let's get one closer. Oh, he goes pawn hunting. I'm going to ignore him and just try to break open his king. I thought he might go for the queen trade. I mean, he's down 6 points of material, so who cares what he does. He now has checks on the king, but that hangs the queen. So, let's go here. All we need is an open H file and his checkmate. Or even on an open G file, any open G or H file. And you have 2 coordination checkmate squares. You don't even need your rook. Okay, now he offers the queen trade. But this comes with check. And what does this do? It opens up the H file with tempo, which means now we have different possibilities if we want them. Of course, you could take his queen, you're up everything. And now there's this check which allows further queen trade nonsense. So it looks like we're going to have to go for it either way. On the off chance he doesn't find queen h5. Actually, let's just take it. I don't want to deal with checks. But if he didn't find queen h5, you have a mating sequence. But now that we're just up everything and this guy won't resign, let's just, I don't know, offer the rook trade. He hits the bishop. I mean, he's just wasting his time. We'll just get our last piece in the game. And Bobby Fuscher is going down. I guarantee it. We take with check. There's really no mating stuff here. Maybe if we bring our king in, we can try to construct something with an extra piece. He's asking to be mated by coming closer, so that's nice, but we need this square covered for mate. So what if we do this move? Will he notice? No, that's a check. Of course he's going to notice. And he's just going to go back. How do we cover this square? If we go h3, we then can't get that check in. Okay, let's go h3. I guess we'll just go for a different mating construction then. Oh, he goes for this. But I think I'm going to pin it. That way he can't take anything, because he would lose his king before I lose my king. And now that this is hit twice, the only way to defend it would be rook over, which would allow for the trade of his last piece, which he does. Let's throw in the check. And now his king is cut off. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to use this. Oops, I forgot about my time. This construction, because he can't bypass it. These two pieces can stay here forever, and there's nothing he can do about it. So when I go here, he's essentially in zugzwang, right? Okay, and now he just pushed the pawn and ladder checkmate. I always say you can use the pieces you have, but I hate using combinations of rook and knight or rook and bishop because there's so many different squares and things to look at. But when you have two rooks or a queen and rook and you can just do the ladder checkmate, there's nothing to think about, or it's the easiest thing in the world. Okay, so let's go. That's a stalemate, and that's also an illegal move. I don't know what that was. So let's cut off his king and not stalemate him. And this is checkmate. Okie dokie. So, one game in the books against Bobby Fuscher. And we play a von Popiel Gambit, or we tried to anyway, which sacrifices the pawn against the Scandinavian. He takes it. So the engine, of course, likes black here slightly, but that's a gambit, so that's the point. So now we develop in center. He defends. There are master games here. F3. Still master games. And the entire point is that when he takes, you take with the queen, hitting the bishop as well as the pawn behind it. And black's best move is usually to go back home, which nobody does, so easy win, right? So anyway, we're threatening to just win our pawn back with a nice center. That's why he takes. And if you take back with the knight, and his bishop gets to stay here, you know, black is just a pawn up. So we take with the queen, and the game is even. We now have a double attack. And in a lot of different lines, like when the knight's already out, they want you to bring your bishop back home. In this case, the engine's saying you can even play queen c8, defending both in this fashion. You know, also another possible way to play. And then we just continue from here. We just develop our pieces and, I don't know, just attack the guy. But he didn't go for that. He immediately blundered his bishop, +4. And you can see by the graph, it's just dominating. From here on, the rest of the game is, there's nothing. There's nothing to see because you're up a piece. So even with the giving away our pawn on purpose, we have 97 accuracy. So let's see how we go. It's +5 and it stays there. We develop and center. You know, easy conversion. He hits our queen, force move. You can move it wherever you want. Don't worry about which square, up to you. Development and king safety. King safety, development. Development and prophylaxis for anti-king safety. Improving our position for free because pick up the bishop pair is another advantage. Force move, we get the bishop pair advantage. He's hitting our bishop, so force move and for free. Improving a piece with threats and prophylaxis against his pin knight. Improving a piece and with threats because it's just overwhelming. He's hanging stuff right now. +7. He hits our queen, so force move. He hits our queen, force move. And now, improving a piece for free. Prophylaxis, because it's restricting the knight's pin. And it's hanging, these knights are both hanging, +8. He hits our queen, so force move. So a lot of our moves, when they're forced, it's easy to find best moves, or even if it's not best, you know, excellent moves. Because you're forced. So those are easy when you don't have 3 or 4 moves and you're like, which one am I, you know, that's the hard part. Force moves are easy. So we take free stuff, he takes back, forced move, free stuff, he takes back, forced move, free stuff. And there is no forced mate here. I was trying to set this up, but there's just too many ways to stop it, too many ideas for black and resources. So he's obviously completely lost, but you don't get the mate the way I wanted it. He plays this way, I just creep and crawl my queen in. I've spoken about this before. When you're trying to attack, don't be afraid to move your queen one step at a time. And then he takes here. I thought maybe he'll go for the queen trade, but it's +8.5. It doesn't matter, but it does take away my mate. I just ignore him, and I'm going for mate, clearly. It's still not forced mate, but I'm still going for it, because it's good. So we open up the G file and the H file. He now goes for the queen trade. I throw in the check, and then I realize, let's just take the queen trade. It's +9. You guys can convert this, I hope. So, it's the end of that game. Hopefully, you get a little bit of a feel for the von Popiel Gambit. And when someone plays the Scandi against you, you know, if you don't like going down main lines and main theory, feel free to try d4. It's, I mean, obviously it's a mistake by the computer, but it's not that bad of a move. It's more than playable, and you can see what happens here. Good luck in your chess. Goodbye.